together, and we're hoping this will happen again in 2 weeks from tonight, so August 13th. Those of you who are geographically near to us, I hope you'll join us in person that night. But regardless, it is nice to be together, and welcome to everybody watching on the live stream wherever you may be. And speaking of live stream, I would love to know where any of you are watching from. So if you could say a quick hello, Shabbat Shalom if you're on Facebook, and even drop us a word about how you're doing. How are you doing? How are you feeling? And I'd like to invite the same for everybody on Zoom. How are you doing? What are you bringing in with you so that we can be better able to just let go and just be here in this moment? So you can drop a word in the chat if you're on Zoom, and let us know how you're doing if you feel comfortable sharing that, so that we know what kinds of emotions are filling up our sacred community tonight, our virtual sanctuary. And again, those on Facebook or who are also tuning in, let us know you're here. Maybe a word to let us know how you're doing. Everyone take a deep breath. So no matter how you were doing, let's enter into this present moment, and maybe there will be a shift. Maybe you'll have a more spacious sense within yourself, within your physical body, within your spiritual and emotional body. Allow more space so that we can receive Shabbat. Let's take some really nice deep inhales and complete exhales to let go of the week that has passed and really prepare to enter into the sanctuary in time. You know, it's really profound that Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel noted that Shabbat is the Jewish people's sanctuary in time, because as we have needed to be not in our physical sanctuary so much of the past year and a half, time has become truly our sanctuary. And so let it be a place, let Shabbat be a place that you enter in. Another interesting thing is that one of the words for God, one of the many words for God in our tradition, is hamakom, and hamakom means the place. So let's enter into the place, into the space of Shabbat, and let hamakom, the place, capital Mem, capital P, enter into us. A couple more deep breaths. While you're breathing, I'm just going to sing the nigun, or the nigun, as Joey Weisenberg likes to call it, in the Ashkenazic tradition, the nigun of Shalom Aleichem. We're not going to sing the words quite yet. We'll sing the nigun, and then we'll light candles, and then we'll sing the words. Yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai, yai dai dai. Okay, let's light our candles. Welcome you to join me, and then we'll sing the words for Shalom Aleichem. Try to make it so you can see. The candle blessing is on page 2. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. So I wonder if anyone has a simcha shout out that you'd like to share. Anything joyous that you've marked this past week or looking forward to, feel free to tell us in the chat. I already saw from Diane that Rose was with you for 5 days. I'm sure that was full of simcha, of joy. So we'd love to hear if you have anything you'd like to be known, to help us know you as community, any moment of simcha, of joy, special occasion. And let us know. Just restarted our simcha shout out section, and I would love to have folks write to us and let us know some things in advance that we can call out during services. So let's sing Shalom Aleichem. We're on page 24, and Gavi Berkman is home from camp. He was at overnight camp for a couple of weeks, and then I'm so proud I have to share that he ran his own soccer day camp for little ones, which was a big hit, and he is being very generous in loaning me some of his time, and he will accompany us for Shalom Aleichem, and I'm going to try to make it so that you can see him, and maybe even both of us, and there's the man. All right, let's welcome the angels of Shabbat, page 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashari, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem LaShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitkhem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank you, Gavi. Yasher Koach. Let's turn to page 10 and sing Ma Yafeh Hayom. How beautiful is this day. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom, Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Okay, we're going to turn to Lecha Dodi, and Josh Cohen is going to lead us in Lecha Dodi, so I'm very excited for that. And I want to invite you to think about, as we're welcoming Shabbat, we're saying, come my beloved, let's greet Shabbat. Let's think about what our sages understood as that neshama yitera, that extra soul, that extra bit of soul substance that is uniquely ours to manifest how might we coax that bit of ourselves that might be hidden, might be concealed or covered over with a lot of stuff? How can we coax it out? Is there a part in us that is yearning to come more to the surface? So I'd like to just set that as our kavanah, as our intention, as we sing Lecha Dodi. What's a special kind of part of you that you really might want to spend time with this Shabbat and give it more space in yourself? We'll turn to Lecha Dodi, page 20 and 21, verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. We'll rise on verse 9.
Yalalai lecha dodi, yalalai likrat kala, yalalai b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, yalalai lecha dodi, yalalai likrat kala, yalalai b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, yishmihanu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, l'shemu tiferet v'litilha. Yai lai lai, yalalai lecha dodi, yalalai likrat kala, yalalai b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat, likrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha, ki b'kol habracha, merosh miketer nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava tehillah. Sing it with me. Yai lai lai, yalalai lecha dodi, yalalai likrat kala, yalalai b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 5, hitoreri, 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 ki ba'orech kumi ori, uri, uri, shirta be'ri, kivod Adonai, alayit nikla. Yai lalai, yalalai lecha dodi, yalalai likrat kala, yalalai b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Please rise. Ohi v'shalom, ateret chalat, gam b'simcha ובזאת עולה תוך אמוני הסגולה בואי קלה Yilululai likrat kalam, Yilululai b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nikabel.
Asher Koach, Josh, thanks so much.
Always.
So we'll sing our wow psalm, Psalm 92, Magadlu. But first, I want to share a teaching from the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidism. He taught that the world is full of wonders and miracles, but we take our hand and we cover our eyes and we see nothing. What is it that you are not seeing? So just like I said, what is that part of you, part of your you-ness, your neshama, your unique soul that needs some encouragement to come out and be manifest in the extra spaciousness of Shabbat? So too, what is it that perhaps you're not seeing, you're not paying attention to, maybe something that you want to adjust your vision a little bit, adjust your perspective on Shabbat in the service of renewing your soul, in the service of being able to move forward out into the world of Chol, of the everyday, out of the world of Kodesh, of the set apart and the holy. So let's just pause and take a breath. Call to mind a moment that elicited in you a sense of wonder. I sometimes go back to some books of poetry that are dear to me, and I have I don't know if you could call it a practice, a very minor practice of just opening the book to a random page. And I play a little mind game with myself and tell myself that whatever page I happen to open to in that book, there's going to be something I need to learn that day from it. And so I took a big one of my very favorite poets, Mary Oliver, and I turned to a page, and honestly I don't even remember what poem I turned to, except that I did it first thing in the morning. I think reading a poem first thing in the morning is probably a really great thing to do as part of a prayer practice or anything else, and it got my mind in a poetry mindset, and I ended up writing 3 poems this week where I really hadn't written any for a while, which is unusual for me. So that was my wow moment, that something so simple as opening a book and reading one not even very long poem could kind of rewire my brain in a little way. Sorry if I'm glitching. I'm seeing that I might be having tech issues. Hopefully not too bad. Anyone else want to share a moment of awe or wonder, either in the chat or we're a small enough group you can unmute if you'd like. Okay. Well, think about it. Think about it, and we're going to turn to the top of page 342 and sing Hallelujah. You might hear some guitar in the background. That's Rabbi Jethro Berkman off camera tonight, but singing with me nonetheless. Hallelujah, 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 Magadlu, Masechaya, hallelujah, me'od amku machshevu techa, have some moments of wonder, even if they're very, very small ones. Sometimes those are the most miraculous. Hope you'll have those throughout Shabbat and in the coming week. Thank you to Jethro. We'll move into Ma'ariv with the Baruch Hu. Please rise in body or spirit as you're able on page 28. And please unmute if you're comfortable doing so for the responsive line of the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Avorach Le'olam Olam.
Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed. As we give thanks in this blessing before the Shema, that day turns to night and night turns to day. In these miraculous cycles of time and nature, Josh will lead us in roll into light, roll into dark.
Roll into dark. Roll into dark light. Roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. You've got it. Roll into dark. Roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. Borei. Yom Halayla Goel. Golel Hor Mipnei Choshech. Golel Hor Mipnei Choshech. Bechoshech Mipnei Or. Roll into dark. Roll into dark. Roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. Roll into dark. Roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. Borei, Yom Halayla. Golel Hor Mipnei Choshech. Golel Hor Mipnei Choshech. Bechoshech Mipnei Or. Roll into dark. Roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. Roll into dark. Roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night.
Asher Koach, thank you, Josh. And then we turn to Ahavat Olam, everlasting love. So we sing the last four lines of this blessing, page 32. ואהבת אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. If we're still standing, we can be seated. We're on page 36 for V'ahavta. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בעם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Josh will lead us in Micha Mocha, page 40.
Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 Mi chamocha b'halim Adonai Mi chamocha neidar b'chodesh Noratehi של מרים זלי אנו ואמרו זלי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד יללי Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 Yai lai lai Yai lai lai
ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני קהל ישראל. Turn to page 42 for Hashkivenu. We'll sing the first two lines and then we'll skip down to the indented lines Ushmor Tzeitenu, praying that we lie down in peace and rise up again to life. L'chaim, l'chaim, right? That's our people's toast. L'chaim, l'chaim. We ask in this blessing. V'ha'amidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Let us, our guardian, source, our shomer, our keeper, waken to life again in the morning. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom Ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom Ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ushmor tzeitenu uvoeinu lechaim ulshalom me'atza ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. We'll sing Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha, the third line down. Spread over us, Fros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha, a shelter of your peace. Aleinu Sukat Amidah, the standing prayer for which we'll rise in body or spirit as we are able. Rabbi Art Green has said, it is while saying the Amidah that our heart can open and our most private longings co-mingle with the ancient words to create thoroughly Jewish and yet thoroughly personal prayer. So as we move through this prayer together and yet privately, and we do a little of both, we turn to page 46, and we'll chant the first three blessings together and give some individual time before we come back together with Shalom Rav. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו ביהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום והללוך הסלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We continue with the following blessings found on pages 54 and onward. Or the words that are in our hearts will return together as community for Shalom Rav, which is on page 60. On page 60, Shalom Rav, a prayer for peace. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon לכל השלום, כי אתה הוא מלך אדום, לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. So I'd like to share a few words with you about where we are located in Torah, emotionally and in terms of learning what is given to us to wrestle with in this week's Torah portion. And as we continue to move through these 7 weeks of consolation, the prophetic portions are ones of consolation. I'm not going to focus on that tonight, but this is a time, as I said last week, we moved through a period of mourning and then culminating in Tisha B'Av. And now we're in rather than the space of admonition, we're in a space of consolation in terms of our sacred texts as we move between Tisha B'Av and Rosh Hashanah. So, but what I did want to focus on is where we are located in Torah, which is still, feels like, oh my God, are we still here? Yes, we are still listening to Moshe, to Moses, retelling, except not quite retelling, right? We've talked about this, how this Mishneh Torah, as the book of Deuteronomy is called, is not just a simple repetition of what has happened to the Israelites, but as we all do when we turn back, when we look back and remember our experiences, we look back with a certain lens of where we are at that moment, and that actually shapes our story. And in the same way that our stories shape us, we shape our stories in the telling and retelling. So here Moses, who is soon no longer to be of this world, is continuing to reflect upon what has happened to the Israelites in the wilderness. We have a lot of emphasis in this Torah portion about, if you follow the commandments, then things will go well for you. And we also have recollections of when things did not go well for the Israelites in the wilderness. But now the focus is on where they will be, which is in the wilderness. And if any of you had a chance to read my Shabbat message today, or you may know about this from other sources, but the traditional second paragraph of the Shema that we do not recite as a community and generally as a Reform movement contains a chunk of the verses from this week's Parsha. And those verses are very troubling to us because, or probably troubling because they suggest that if we follow commandments, we'll get rain. If we get rain, of course, we'll have produce. We'll have the right rain at the right time. Things will go well, and that all depends on how we behave in this world. And in real lived actuality, it doesn't always seem to quite be that way. So we're in Parashat Ekev, and in this retelling, the people are rebuked. It's interesting. In the liturgical calendar, we're in a time of consolation. In what's happening in Torah, the people are not being consoled. They're being admonished. They're being reminded of all the terrible things that they did along the journey, right? So what are some of those things? The building and worshiping of the golden calf, the rebellion of Korach, the sin of the spies, not having the confidence and giving a negative report and a fearful report about what they saw in the promised land. And so, however, Moses does speak of God's forgiveness and reminds the people of the second set of tablets that was inscribed and given to the people after Moses smashed them down in anger after the sin of the golden calf. A really, many commonplace phrases in our lexicon come from Torah, and we don't necessarily know it. So one of my favorites is in this week's Torah portion, man does not live by bread alone. That comes right from Parashat Ekev. Moses says to the people, listen, people, this whole time you were sustained by manna, this otherworldly bread. You can't go around the corner to the bakery and get manna. Manna was bestowed upon you, a literal source of sustenance. And we have the verse, human beings do not live by bread alone, but by the utterance of God's mouth, by what God tells us to do, by the commandments. So we have just one more kind of, as by way of background, one more thing that we have in this parsha is that here we also have the phrase, the land flowing with milk and honey. Eretz zavat dvash, chalav udvash, a land flowing with milk and honey, and blessed with 7 species, the 7 species that we eat on Tu B'Shvat, because they come from the land of Israel, and we're celebrating the trees of that land. So wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olive oil, and dates. So remember, where they are emotionally is they've been through quite a time. It's been quite a trek, and they are about to cross over into this land that's being described to them as a place of abundance and blessing. And interestingly, at this very moment, they are being warned that they are at a particular risk of forgetting what it felt like to be on a very uncertain journey, to have the experience of lack, to be receiving manna from heaven, but not knowing for sure if it's ever going to come down on them. And that they're going to be in a land that, as long as the cycles of nature cooperate and they have rains in their due time, they're going to have abundant produce. So we have the phrase, which appears also in Exodus when it relates to Pharaoh, your hearts might become circumcised, might become, uncircumcised, hardened. Pharaoh's heart was hardened, stiffened. The verb has to do with circumcising your heart, has to do with a certain kind of opening of your heart. Let your heart grow loose and open, you might say. And God says that they get this admonishment, or this warning, that the verse says, cut away the thickening about your hearts and stiffen your necks no more. So this is in chapter 10 of Deuteronomy. But first, in chapter 8, we have a very interesting verse. I pointed this out to you a year ago at this parasha. This is the origin of Birkat HaMazon. Now, when do Jews tend to say a blessing for the food? Certainly we have the motzi blessing before we eat, if we're eating something containing wheat, which makes it an official meal. We have hamotzi, but when do we really give grace? When do we thank God? After the meal, right? The grace after meals. If you were to translate it into English, Birkat HaMazon, the blessing for the mazon, the blessing for the food, for the sustenance. Maybe because when our stomachs are full and we've experienced abundance, we might be in a particular precarious place, or more vulnerable to forgetting that our food ultimately comes from cycles that are divine in nature, that though we can do what we can and must to tend this earth, that so much of our lives is precarious and is dependent on forces beyond ourselves, and that we should really hold that stance of grace, of deepest gratitude. So the verse in our Torah portion says, "Ve'achalta v'savata u'varachta et Adonai Elohecha al haaretz ha-tova asher natan lach." When you have eaten your fill, give thanks to the Lord your God for the good land which God has given you. Not so much focusing on pray that you will have your fill, but when you have your fill, pray. Make a blessing. And I think that's really interesting thing to note, the order of that. So more of chapter 10, Moses says to them, what does God demand of you? Only to revere God, walk in God's path, love God, and serve God with all your heart and soul, keeping God's commandments and laws, which I enjoin upon you this day for your good. God chose you. We have a lot about chosenness here. God chose you from among all peoples. Cut away, therefore, the thickening about your hearts, and stiffen your necks no more. And for the Lord your God is God supreme, God mighty and awesome, God who shows no favor and takes no bribe, but upholds the cause of the fatherless and the widow and befriends the stranger, providing him with food and clothing. How interesting that we're reminded here, A, to bless when we are full, not necessarily to pray when we are hungry, but to recognize when our needs have been met. And then we translate that recognition into an openness in our hearts, which translates into an openness to the other, the fatherless, the widow, the stranger. What is the connection between recognizing our blessings and the fact that our blessings come from beyond in some fundamental way, and doing in a very practical this world way for those who are in need? How interesting. Bless when you're full, and when you do that, you're going to be reminded that your God who helped give you this abundance is a God who upholds the cause of those who are in need, and so you too will do the same. So I hope that we can carry that teaching with us about blessing when we are full, giving thanks, but not giving thanks and leaving it at that. Giving thanks, and that thanks then translates into action. And clearly, because we see the phrase hardened or circumcised or uncircumcised heart throughout Torah in so many ways, we are being told there is a softness and an openness that we must have around our hearts, in our heart space, and especially at the brink of the promised land, when the Israelites may be thinking, our travails are over, all of our needs will be met. Don't forget to keep your heart soft and open. Don't forget to keep your eyes open to those around you. Don't forget to share your abundance with others. Thank you for listening, and I welcome any thoughts, whether at the end of the service or any way that you wish to communicate afterwards. We will turn back now in our service to reach the conclusion of our service. First of all, with Leinu on page 253, please rise in body or spirit, reminding ourselves of the responsibilities outlined in this Torah portion and that I just illuminated a little bit. Aleinu, it is on us. It is on us to praise, to give thanks through our words and through our actions, and to turn our gratitude into action. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נושא שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 287. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. At this time, we recall our loved ones who have passed from this earth. We're going to screen share the list of members of our community whose yard site falls this week. And I know some of you are here reciting Kaddish for particular loved ones during a time of mourning or on a yard site. We're a small group on Zoom tonight, relatively, so I would like to invite you, as you're comfortable, to share the name or names of those for whom you are reciting. Unmute and do that. And if you would rather not, you can put the names in the chat. I do see the Feldmans here, and I know that they're reciting Kaddish for their beloved son Peter. I know that Karen, you're reciting Kaddish for your mom, Norma Weber, and your mother-in-law, Luz Maria Salamanca. I don't want to forget anyone who might be observing Yartzeit or in a time of mourning. So if you'd like to share, please do. And Diane?
Yes, my beloved mother, Evelyn Rosen.
Oh, it's your mother's Yartzeit. May her memory
Yes.
be a blessing.
Thank you.
Of course. Our past president, Bill Harris, his mother died recently, Rosalie Harris. Thinking of them. Anyone else? We will say Mourner's Kaddish, and I'm realizing that we skipped the Misha Berach, and I'm not sure how that happened, so I'll make sure we get back to it, but we will recite Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah v'alma divra chirutei v'amlich malchutei v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael v'agala uv'izman koriv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the memory of all those we've named and those we carry in our hearts be an eternal blessing. May we honor their memories in word and in deed. So again, my apologies that we skipped Mourner's Kaddish earlier in the service. I'm going to, Misha Berach. Earlier in the service, I think. Yes, we did. And I would like to give us the opportunity to pray for healing. So if you are thinking of anyone in particular on this Shabbat in need of refuat nefesh, healing of spirit, or refuat guf, healing of body, please let me know. You can unmute or you can put in the chat. Yes, Ruth. Go ahead, Ruth Seidman.
My cousin's wife, Gail Hoover, very sick.
Oh, I'm sorry. Anyone else? I'm looking to check on Facebook too, if anyone wants to share a name from our community. Praying for Philip Krynick and Allison Rim. Continues to heal. Thinking of all those who are suffering from COVID, especially with the new variant, and with and those who love them and are caring for them. Thinking of those whose hearts and worlds were shattered when the building in Surfside in Florida collapsed. Let us not forget there are so much suffering in this world, and we think about those who are impacted, and then something else comes and we think of them, but let's try to hold it all when we take these sacred moments of prayer. Hold that prayer for healing for so many in our world who need it. May we do everything we can to bring healing and wholeness to this world. We're in the middle of page 253. Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Leimoteinu. May the source of of strength, who blessed the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. May all those we've named and who are in our hearts know healing and wholeness of body and of spirit. So I think I have a few announcements. Next Friday night, Rabbi Schaefer will be back from his time off and will be leading the service along with Josh. Please stay tuned. I am not totally sure if that service will be entirely virtual or some outdoor in-person option with a virtual option, as we will do for most everything going forward for those who prefer to stay at home as the pandemic plays out and as your geography and comfort level dictates. But of course, anytime we're in person, we are so thrilled to welcome you. And the following Friday, though, I do hope all who can will be able to join us outside on August 13th. We will be outside having a Tat Shabbat first at 5:15, maybe 5:30. Stay tuned. Josh is excited. I'm excited to lead it with Josh. And then we'll move into our regular service at 6 p.m. And we will definitely continue to welcome you on Zoom and through the live stream. But again, please join us. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. It really did last week. It was beautiful. And let's hope it will be that way on the 13th. Our next outdoor service after that, so you can mark your calendars, will be August 27th. So we have a full slate for August. And then the next night on August 28th, it's Slichot. It is the opening of the High Holy Day service, High Holy Day season. Our Slichot service will be on August 28th, Saturday evening, and it will be virtual, but it will be filled with beautiful music of our choir and some opportunities for reflection and simply being together as we get ready to greet the new year. If you receive any mail from us, you know full well that we've been telling you a lot about the High Holy Days and encouraging you to register for being with us in person. We continue to monitor the situation with COVID very closely with our advisory committee, our health and safety committee, and we will keep you updated on any plans. But at this time, we plan to have limited numbers, masked. We certainly hope that all who are eligible will be vaccinated at that time and in our sanctuary. And whoever would like to join the live stream will be more than welcome to do that as well. We're hoping that we will create a meaningful experience for everyone. When I say we, I mean the clergy and all who work to lead these services. Our choir, our music director, our soloist will be with us some of the time, Avi Davis, but also our tradition and all the themes of our tradition that we have accessible to us, and that we come to that deep well and drink deeply of our tradition together in community. So community, tradition, God, and all who work on behalf of our community at Temple Ohabei Shalom, both lay leaders and professional, we will be creating a meaningful experience together, and I hope you'll join us. I believe I'm not missing any other announcements. I will be in Maine this coming week, so I wish you all a good week and moments of beauty as I hope to be experiencing on vacation. And does anyone We're going to make kiddush and motzi. Please join me if you would like to do so at home, and we'll be on page 5 for those blessings. Please rise in body or spirit. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava uvratzon inchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh, zecher letziat mitzrayim. Kivanu v'acharta, v'yotanu kiddashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, b'yahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha'shabbat. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lecha min haaretz. Amen. Please do stay on and say hello. Those of you on the Zoom, I'd love to say hello to you if you can stay on for a moment. And Josh will lead us out with Oseh Shalom by Nava Tehillah. I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom and a wonderful Shabbat and week to come.
Oseh Shalom bimromah, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. Oseh Shalom bimromah, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. Yalei, yalalei. Say shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. Sing it out, yalalei, yalalei,
tech tonight and providing us with some beautiful music.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, everyone, for being here.